Welcome to DentonRadio.com, powered in part by Classic of Denton. Hey everybody, we are live at DentonRadio.com with the makers of Acres of Diamonds. Guys, introduce yourselves.
I'm Alan Thompson, director and founder of 1/8 Productions, and I was the cinematographer on Acres of Diamonds.
I am Sean Small. I actually am the executive director of an organization called Wonder Voyage here in Denton, and I am the director of Acres of Diamonds.
Well, very, very cool, guys. You guys have created such a really neat thing that we've gotten to chat a little bit about prior to getting started. And so I wanted to go into a little bit with you guys again, kind of where you guys came from, your origin stories yourselves, all that good stuff, and kind of how this whole thing came to be.
Excellent. Well, I guess I'll start.
Kick it off.
So for the past 20 years, I've run Wonder Voyage, which is an organization that primarily takes out students around the world for cultural immersion and pilgrimages. We go on adventure trips, but those students have to give back to the places they go. So I've had this kind of deep dive into the nonprofit world and into countries, about 72 different countries that I go to, and we do work in them. When cool. I was much younger, I went to film school for a couple of years, and then promptly did what most film students do, nothing with it for the next 20 years. And I got the itch back in 2008 that, man, I love film. I'm just a fan. But I thought, what if I actually use those skills and dove in, kind of merged these two things, this love of nonprofits, this love of travel, these massive issues we have in the world with actually trying to shoot a film. So on a shoestring budget, I shot a film in South Sudan months right before it became the newest nation in the world.
Wow. And
South Sudan, 90% of the people there did not have clean water. So that affects everything, health, politics, you name it. There's an incredible organization here in Dallas called Water is Basic. And a good friend of mine, Steve Reese, who's the director of that, Steve and I pitched him the idea, let's do this. We raised the funds outside of Water is Basic. We did this film. Here we are several years later, and it's raised over $4 million for water wells in South Sudan. We know for a fact it's brought fresh water to about 10% of the population.
Wow.
So towards the end of that project, I was having some troubles, and I knew Alan, and I said, man, you are an incredible cinematographer and an editor, and I need you to bail me so we can actually finish this project. He came in and he saved my neck at the time. So maybe you can tell about what you do.
Yeah, so my wife and I founded 1/8 Productions back in 2011, but goes all the way back to when we were in college and dating at the time, and I had dreams of being on ESPN like most young boys at that age. And I went and spent some time in Africa, and I just really fell in love with the people and the stories, and I just felt this really strong calling. These are the stories that I want to tell. If you're going to news or sports, you wind up in, Podunk, Idaho, and things like that, covering city council meetings and things like that. And
Right.
it's absolutely important. But I just really felt drawn to these particular stories that I wasn't going to get to tell in news. And so we decided to get married, move to Texas, and start a business all during a recession. Which is great.
Love
great
it.
timing for that. Mainly just because we didn't.
Forward thinker there.
Well,
I love it.
at that age, we just didn't know any better.
Sure.
And so we now work primarily with nonprofits and also with very socially conscious for-profits that are doing things around the world because we found this need where there were people doing incredible things, but they didn't have the time or the energy or the knowledge to be able to really tell their story in a compelling way. And in 2018, if you're going to be able to cut through the noise and all the different Kickstarters and all the different GoFundMes,
Right.
you have to be able to really tell your story in a way that resonates with people, to draw them in to partner with you in your mission.
Wow.
And we've just found that film and photography and just visual stories can really drive change and engagement in ways that some old-fashioned methods that used to work maybe don't work quite as well anymore.
Right.
And so at that time, my wife had finished a master's degree, had met Sean a few times through our mutual friend, and I knew he had been working on this project, and I get a call saying, "Hey, this is where I'm at. This is what we need. We basically need to re-edit some things, and we need to basically get it all packaged in a matter of weeks." At that point, and so we scrambled and we got it together. Actually, one of the videos we wound up putting together, I believe, was played at the Clinton Foundation dinner a few years ago.
Wow.
Also at the UN.
At the UN,
World Women's Day.
for that, again, all about water is basic in these wells in South Sudan. And so it was after that project where, we finally were able to come up for air, and man, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
We had a blast together, and we just riffed off each other so well.
Yeah.
And we literally said, let's do this again and make no money and find another organization.
Right.
Dive in and do this.
Yeah, and so we kicked around some other ideas that, with anything like this, with anything artistic, I feel like you kick around 100 ideas before something finally sticks.
Sure.
And so finally, whenever Sean was like, I've had this vision for this film in India with this organization that my family's involved with, and here's what it is, and he kind of laid it out, this issue of bonded slavery and children in India, and I was just like, man, this sounds like an incredible organization. Never been to India, but basically just grabbed our cameras, and my wife and I and Sean all hopped on a plane and kind of just made it up day by day.
Too cool.
There was a lot more planning.
There was a lot more
into
planning
it.
than that.
We didn't just jump on a plane, but yeah, it was. We actually knew exactly what we wanted, and we the organization was so incredible that we got to work with. It was easy in a sense for us to pull something off that was actually, like, you don't hear about this issue. It's pretty dangerous to show up with cameras in India shooting slavery when the Indian government will tell you there is no slavery there, but there are 12 million people in slavery, at least, children at least. So there's more than that with adults. So we didn't want to be stupid, but we definitely wanted to catch something that brought this. I mean, it's amazing. It would be like there would be 360,000 people in the U.S. that were working in slavery today on farms.
Wow.
How is this not known? How is this thing not, worldwide known? Now, IGM, International Justice Mission, several reports, organizations that work for this, they report this, but it's one of those stories that to us was so huge, but you never read about it, you never hear about it. And come on, it's children. We're talking like 5, 6-year-olds up to about 17 that are working 12 hours of hard labor 6 or 7 days a week. No education. I mean, they're going to die young deaths under that. And when I would visit India, I would see these kids all the time. Yeah. So I couldn't take it anymore. And I know how Alan and Patty are when it comes to like advocating for children. And so he was in. They were both in like that fast.
Too cool.
Yep.
Too cool.
And yeah, I mean, and that was, with us never having been to India, Sean was very knowledgeable about the issue, about the organization, and about what we were going to go do. And so like having him as the director was great because we just got to go and make beautiful pictures to tell the story.
Love it.
So it really, really worked out well.
Yeah. Too cool. Well, super cool. We got to talk a little bit about the name Acres of Diamonds and where that came from.
Sure.
But go ahead and give us that story as to where that name Acres of Diamonds came from.
Well, Faiz Rahman, the gentleman that runs this organization, basically came from a low caste group in India that wouldn't have had a chance to do anything. So we're talking, 40 plus years ago, 50 years ago. And a woman from the United States actually funded his education in India, paid for him to come over and go to school, did some schooling in England, and then finished up to his doctorate degree here in the U.S.
Wow.
But once he was out of India, like a lot of people who come from poor backgrounds, once you kind of get out of that place, you don't really want to go back there.
Yeah.
And he met his wife over here and had his family and basically was, fully involved over here in the U.S., not really looking to go back to India. He went back on a trip and ended up speaking to a group of some of the poorest people in India out in the middle of nowhere. And this was in the early 90s, mid 90s, and something struck his heart that I've abandoned where I came from. And I have a responsibility to take what I now, all the knowledge I've gained, and bring it back and see these kids set free. I remember he'll tell the story where at the end of the gathering, it was about 40 people, 25 of those being children, and they split 2 pounds of rice between all of them. That was their only meal for the day. And it broke him.
Yeah.
That's where he came from. And suddenly he was like, oh my gosh, look. And what he does is he looks at those kids and he says, these are my acres of diamonds. Diamonds are created under pressure. Diamonds come out of the ground rough, but with the proper artist working on the diamond, they become something beautiful. They're worth something. And if you don't know, you'll walk right over them if you don't know anything that they're there. And he'll constantly tell us, these children, this is India's future. These enslaved children, these are the ones that are gonna change where this country goes in the future. So there are acres of diamonds. We have to go out there. We have to grab a hold of them. We have to bring as many in as we can. And the way he does that this organization specifically is with schools, boarding schools that they've created for kids.
Wow. Very, very, very cool. And what's interesting to me, or at least what I find fascinating about the whole process of documentary film and all this kind of stuff, is the amount of change that it can create, which is staggering. I mean, you talked about before, you had one documentary on water and changed real percentages of a population. And so I can't wait to see what this type of film is going to do for this. And this subject that really doesn't get talked about much, like you said, because it's kind of difficult to do what you guys did. And I don't know if I could say this on the air, but I will. It takes a lot of stones to go to go do. It's just very, very, very cool, and super honored that we are getting to show this film here in Denton at the Thin Line Film Festival, where anybody can come out and check this out and get to see it and be a part of it from some local guys, which is super cool, and just love the story. So, what are some other highlights that we need to make sure we touch on? from this process?
One of the challenges that you run into with doing a story like this is access. And really that's a problem with any documentary you do, but particularly with this one is access. Ethically, we couldn't just pull over on the side of the road where we saw kids working with their families saying, hey, can we take your picture and get some film and then leave?
Sure.
I come from a journalistic background, and so the thought of staging things makes me uncomfortable with that, because I want to tell the truth. And so we would go back and forth, like, how are we gonna do this? And then on top of that, it's an issue where at least 12 million kids are enslaved. How do you make somebody care about a number that big? Well, you do it by making it small. So how on earth do we make a number that is so big small enough to make somebody actually care about it? Because otherwise people are like, 12 million, I can't do anything, and they move on.
Sure. And
so what we actually wound up doing is we traveled around to 12 out of 30 dream centers, these schools that they run. And we actually found kids that had been pulled out of this life. And we asked them, what were y'all doing whenever you got brought here, whenever your family decided to bring you here, or however they wound up at the school. And so I was crushing stones on the side of the road, hand making gravel on the side of the road with rocks and things. We were building fences out of brush. We were digging holes. We were whatever it was. And we're like, okay. And so then we would take these kids and we're like, hey, all right, how do you feel about doing it? How do you feel about doing that again here? So I was really nervous because I'm like, we're going to give these kids PTSD.
Yeah.
Like or it's just going to be really awkward and it's not going to be authentic.
They were normal kids like, oh, I kick butt at doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they were so excited. And I remember we were setting up, it's one of the last shots in the film. It's where you have these children stacking bricks on their heads and they're carrying bricks by hand. And, I don't know if this ruins like the effect of the movie, but it was just funny because we were getting the shot all set up. We were getting the kids. We have every scene we did, we had 40 kids standing behind us, like watching and everything. And we turn around, these kids have like ripped up their shirts and like
they wanted to
be authentic.
What it was.
They wanted it to be what it was.
We just asked them. They're kids. It was just like, man, all we want you to do. What did you look like?
Yeah.
And they would throw mud on their face, and they would just
ripped up their shirts and like put dirt in their hair, and I mean, it was just like, so part of me is like, man, this is staged, but at the same time, like, it's just incredibly authentic to what these kids were doing, and this is what these kids were doing at that point.
That's what was amazing to me is what really hit us is we get to say this after every screening. So you see these little girls breaking rocks, and you have to realize they were doing that 12 hours a day with hammers breaking rocks, 12 hours a day. But when you see them in the film, those actual girls, that's what they were doing, and they're free. They're getting an education, great food. They are in a loving environment. And so for us, it kind of turned into this, well, should we do it this way or to, oh my gosh, we get to tell every audience we go to, those are the kids. Those kids are actually, that's what they would be doing 12 hours a day, 7 days a week if somebody hadn't come in and rescued them. Wow. So that's a really cool.
Yeah, it wound up being a really, really cool way to do the story.
To tell the story. Very, very cool, guys. Well, man, I mean, anytime we get to talk about Thin Line or meet with filmmakers from Thin Line or music people from Thin Line or photographers from Thin Line or whatever, I say, man, just this particular thing, going and seeing this doc would be very much worth the trip. And yet you've got all of this stuff that's going to be happening all over the city, which is super, super cool. So, man, you just can't miss this fest. This is going to be too much fun. It's going to be really, really, really incredible. The movie is Acres of Diamonds. And when is it going to be screening?
So it's at Movie Tavern.
Yes.
At 11 a.m. on Saturday the 21st, if I'm right, or is that the 22nd?
I think it's
21st. And then Sunday the 22nd, I think at Movie Tavern at 5 p.m.
Awesome.
That's what I believe. Recheck the schedule, but we're definitely twice going twice.
Perfect. And this is something that's huge about the fest this year. For anybody that doesn't know, normally we're at the campus theater or there's some things downtown or things like this, but Movie Tavern has opened up theaters for the Thin Line Festival this year so that we're going to have a lot more screenings, a lot more content, and we're going to be all over, not just downtown. So it's going to be really, really, really cool feature of the festival.
This was so special to me because I graduated from Louisville High School. I've been in Denton since I was 14 years old in Denton County. I don't live too far from here. And we so bad wanted to get into this festival. We haven't done a Dallas premiere in a year. Like we've done 13 other festivals, no Dallas premiere. We've just held. This is our kind of final hurrah. Yeah. And we're going to invite all of our friends to come out to this festival. And Thin Line is becoming one of those festivals in the industry that we hear about. Like, it's that up and coming.
Yeah.
This is becoming one of those places that you're going to see it, blossom into something. I mean, it's already special, but I have a feeling it's going to blossom to a real national kind of international feel in the next couple of years. So, man, just being here again was like, that was just the best for us.
When you can't ask for a better location up here. I mean, there's so many cool things to do, and I mean, it fits the culture so well. And like he said, being local, I grew up in Southlake, and my wife and I actually live in Grapevine now, which is a whole other long story of how we wound up there. But but it's just it's really cool to be able to show something, in this area.
He wants Grapevine to have this festival.
Yeah.
And so he has to live through this festival because Grapevine doesn't do anything like this.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is the place you come for that.
Yep.
It's fantastic.
Live vicariously through Denton. I love it.
And it makes you feel like a real artist coming to Denton.
Yeah. You heard it. All right, everybody. April 18th through 22nd, the Thin Line Festival is coming up. You got to check out the films. You got to check out the music. You got to check out the photography. It is a can't-miss deal. Go to thinline.us, and you will get all the information. Reserve your spot. Make sure your seat does not get taken because this is going to be such a good festival, and it's always such a good time. Super, super cool. Thank you guys so much for coming to the studio today.
Thanks for inviting us in.
Really, really, really appreciate it. We are going to jump back into the music here at dentonradio.com, but we have got plenty more Thin Line stuff coming at you for the next several weeks. Guys, do not go anywhere. And again, thinline.us. Don't miss your spot. Thanks again for being here, guys.
Awesome.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Jake.
Great.
Well, thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the show. Be sure to check out dentonradio.com for new Denton artists and where they're playing next. While you're surfing the internet, make sure you check out our friends Classic of Denton at classicofdenton.com.